we are live streaming today, Nick.
Once again.
Aren't you happy that we had a 1 week back to school break?
Yeah. I think it was good to have a little break. Now that we're starting the second season here, it was nice to have a little hiatus for everyone to recharge the batteries and shut down the engines a little bit, get a fresh start.
I don't know if people need a break from us.
Well, no, I mean, I think everybody can use a little break, whether it's you or me or any of the listeners. I think it's sometimes just good to have a little break away from everything.
If that's what you think, Nick, but
I mean, you asked me, so I.
Well, the struggle is real, Nick.
It is.
That's all I can say is that nothing has changed in 1 week here.
No, nothing at all. You look the same. I look the same.
I don't look the same. I did let my facial hair grow out, and a couple of my students told me I look like a werewolf last week.
So really? Wow. It was a full moon a week ago, so that's
so I finally took care of that issue.
Okay. So all right.
If you saw me a week ago, that would have been a different issue.
Oh, all right.
I don't think that I would have been even recognizable.
Wow, that much.
Yeah, it was that bad. Well, I don't know.
Oh, I don't know if it's that bad. It was that much.
Well, I don't know if it's good or bad. I can't really tell like a difference between whether like I have facial hair or not. Like I would actually argue that the longer my facial hair is, then the what is it, like the harder it is to go ahead and like get rid of it, because I was kind of getting used to it, Nick.
Well, the good news is it'll grow back.
Well, I don't know about that.
No.
How do you know that when I used this shaving cream that, like there wasn't some chemical in it that would cause permanent hair stunting?
Was it Nair brand shaving cream?
No, it was Nivea cream or something like that.
I think you're probably okay.
Am I really, Nick?
I think so.
Can you guarantee that?
I can't, but I'm willing to take the chances that you'll be okay.
I'm not so sure I'll be okay, but you know what, Nick? It's time for the opening credits.
All right, let's do it.
Hasn't changed.
I hope not.
People are waiting, Nick.
Welcome to Funniest Part of My Name, a podcast about math and Korean culture with a side of humor. For information about our podcast, please visit www.johnoaks.com.
And now here are your hosts, Professor Sungchan and Nick.
So, Nick, I want to tell you about a holiday today that, well, you know about the holidays that are what we usually talk about on the show, like what are some informative pieces that people can take back to use in their lives beyond the show, right?
Yes, I am familiar with our attention to those.
Did you know today is National Grief Awareness Day?
I did not know that.
Yeah, so it is today as a day to just encourage open communication on loss and bereavement and just anything that might actually just cause distress to people.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to be aware of, maybe not necessarily just the day itself, but in general, every day.
Yeah, in general, like I think that this is a very important thing. And so I know that we have both seen this next thing that I'm going to mention on the interwebs, Nick.
Yes.
And I think I'm allowed to say the interwebs, right?
I think you're okay with that.
I feel like at some point I'm like have you seen the new, what is it? Like the new, is it like Geico commercials where it's a guy trying to get like a group of people not to turn into their parents.
Yeah.
And so that's what I feel like some days is when I say interwebs, I'm like this, like a old guy that's turning into even older guy.
Oh, wow. That.
Yeah.
Okay.
But on the, can I say on the gram for short, or do people?
I think you can.
Can I say that?
Yeah, I think most people in today's age understand what you're referencing.
What I'm referencing on the
Yeah.
gram.
Yeah, I think you're saying.
So I really want everyone to go out and give this account a follow and actually just read the story and get engaged and share the story, but go and follow at the Demons of Due Process. And
that's all, John. It's all one word.
All
There's
one word, no
punctuation,
underscores, no extra
dots. Right.
Dots,
right.
nothing extra.
Yes.
I can spell it out for people.
It's the at the beginning.
The THEDEMONSOFDUEPROCESS. Yeah. Well, you know what, Nick? All I can say is if somebody didn't get that after the show, rewind us and listen to it again.
That's why we record these, so people are able to go back
to know
at their own pace.
And you know what else is what you'll see when you're on the gram checking out this account is a story about a kindergartner whose rights were violated. And this kindergartner was just publicly humiliated by, well, the staff, and this is just heartbreaking to me, Nick, but like heckled by other like students as a result of this like humiliation and neglect by the staff in the West Windsor Plainborough Regional School District in New Jersey. So I will say that if you go and watch the video of what happened and hear the kid's story, you'll be able to tell that this kid was grieving. And I truly want to be clear on the fact that just because it's National Grief Awareness Day, that this is an issue that goes away just because we're not highlighting this aspect of mental health like every day. I think it's important to realize that like if a kid gets humiliated by staff, and then the kids in turn like feel like they have a right to heckle the kid as well, that yeah, the kid is going to have some resulting issues from this, like not to even mention the underlying reasons why it even got to this point, which is like the fact that the school district has numerous times been in trouble for retaliation against parents and students who have disabilities or have recorded disabilities and are protected under the Americans with Disability Act. And so who is out there tracking the school district and making sure that they stop this madness here of bullying the kids, bullying the families, bullying everyone, and not taking responsibility for their actions? But
I think the rhetorical question that you're asking is no one. I mean, this district has a history and a track record, and it seems to be going without any checks and balances, unfortunately. And like most things in the world, good or bad, past performance or past events tend to predict what's going to happen in the future. And the fact that it continues to happen over and over and over, I mean, unfortunately, it should be no surprise, but it is indication that there needs to be intervention from the outside to make significant changes so that these kinds of bad news events aren't continuing to happen, because they seem to be a trend, unfortunately, that's developing with this particular district.
Well, and I feel like without knowing the whole story, which is why, again, I really encourage everyone to go and read the story and listen to the video clips and share the story if you feel so compelled. And I feel like without knowing all the facts, Nick, that somebody could say, well, maybe let's give the district the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they didn't have the resources to be staffed or whatever it might be. But then after just a little bit of research about the West Windsor Plainsboro school district here, I hope that people could be informed enough to not fall for a simple trap like that, because they're one of the wealthiest school districts, if not just in the state of New Jersey, in the entire country. And so one example, which is, Nick, and this is our tie-in to Korea for the Korean culture for the evening, but
Okay.
I will say that on a Korean website, when I was doing my research about this awful school district, have you heard of DataNet? It's an IT website.
Not familiar.
Yeah, so it's an IT website that talks about a Korean IT website that talks about some of the IT news out of Korea. And so back on August 4th of this month, let's see, Hyun Ki-yoon reported about how the West Windsor Plainsboro School District actually was able to acquire, and not just acquire, but quickly acquire 10,000 virtual desktops to respond to remote learning needs, like during the pandemic. So all I can say is, if the school district is making news back in Korea for being able to afford to acquire 10,000 virtual desktops, they're not lacking for money, and they can easily, like, quickly acquire the funds to get this student and all the other students that they've wronged over the years the proper rights and protections that they deserve under the Americans with Disabilities Act, and that they have been told by the Office for Civil Rights, the OCR, that they have to comply and actually give the students. So what are your thoughts after hearing this, Nick, that the school district is loaded, yet they still can't find an extra penny to go and pay for what they're supposed to be doing, which is serving the kids and giving the kids a proper education.
Well, that's an attitude thing. You're only going to spend your money where, how you want to and how you wish to spend it. I mean, just because you have it doesn't mean you're going to spend it in any way, let alone the right way. So this to me is completely an attitude and motivation aspect that is not being placed with the right amount of attention for the right intentions. And it seems like there's just a lack of compassion and concern for what the funds probably need to be spent best. And I don't know if that's a situation of it's just being ignored, or if there is a higher power within the system that is saying, or electing against that. It's obviously difficult for us as third parties to know what's going on financially with the school, but nonetheless it's a little disappointing to see that there is financial resource available, yet there are glaring needs that are not being catered by the available funds, which is really disappointing to see, because you want to believe that school systems are doing the right thing to ensure the best possible experience for the students, because that's the intention of a school system, is to educate young minds in the best way possible. And it seems like that's not really happening here, at least not consistently. And it's really unfortunate where you have a school system. I mean, you see so many school systems that just don't have the financial means to be able to provide. And that's another unfortunate thing that, I won't get bogged down in that because it's deviating from the topic, but it's really heartbreaking to see a situation where there apparently is more than enough financial backing to be able to provide for these students, what they need to have to ensure the best possible learning experience. And the fact that they're not it shows you that money is not necessarily the guarantor of having the right things, because this situation is proving that.
Well, you know what, Nick, money or not, I don't believe that it's okay for any school district to get away with illegal activity.
No, of course not. Money does not put you above the law. I mean, unfortunately, we've seen enough times in society that it has a tendency to do that, but it doesn't make the fact that it's not right any more or less than it ever has been.
Well, I will tell you, as somebody who had an IEP, an individualized, what is it? I think it's ILP sometimes. IEP other time, but I had this plan that dictated what certain accommodations I should have gotten in school growing up. And so I know that as a college instructor, that these students who come from a high school system to a college, they have to self-report to the college that they have an individualized plan, right? But that's not the case in K-12 schools, especially in public schools, where the parents in the schools know exactly what's going on from start to finish. And so in this story, that again, you can all go to at the Demons of Due Process on Instagram, and in the story you can find out, and you will find out if you take the time to actually read and listen, that the student had a plan that allowed for accommodations, and there were even records of this accommodation, and then it turns out that one of the accommodations was for a service dog. And so, like, whether you like dogs or not, or whatever it might be, that's not even the issue, because it's a service dog. And so, like, my opinion about dogs at home are that, what, like, I'm allergic to dogs. And so I have a rough time being around dogs sometimes, but there's no way that if I am around a service dog that I would not take my allergy pills and suck it up. And so I don't want anyone to make any excuses for the school district. Like, well, you know what, like, they may not have had the staff that day to allow the service dog there, or they may not have had the proper staff to be able to work with a service dog, when the service dog, it's clear that the accommodation was there, that the service dog was to be allowed, and that it was, quite frankly, just discriminatory behavior that this family was singled out and discriminated against. And the service dog was used as an excuse to discriminate, even though there's proof that the service dog went through training and is safe and is even, like, on a tether and able to, like, be well behaved in an educational situation, yet this was still allowed to happen. So what are your thoughts, Nick, like, about the fact that this is just a school district that, like, ignored the law and ignored the accommodations, and on top of that, like, and here's my thing, Nick, even if the school district, and remember everyone, this is the sleaziest of school districts here, but what I will say is that even if the school district really did not want to comply with the law and did not want to allow the service dog on the school grounds or on the school bus or anywhere on school property, don't you think that it would have been at least the better thing to do to tell this family this before the kid got to school, and then was asked to leave and was humiliated because he was asked to leave, and humiliated because the other kids are making fun of him? Like, if they weren't going to, like, stick to the accommodations that are allowed by law and are clearly legal and have been, like, in what, writing and been given to the school district in advance, right? Even if this all happened, unless the school district was out to purposefully humiliate this student and their family, why didn't they tell the family this before the student and the service dog arrived on the school bus and on the school grounds?
Well, I find it hard to believe that the parents in this situation did not notify the school system of the presence of the service animal. I feel like that would be at the top of the list of things when you're enrolling your your kids into a new school for the first time that you mentioned. So it seems very outlandish that oversight would have happened. And I mean, granted, I'm not speaking from a position of knowing the full extent of the law of service animals, but it isn't the point of a service animal that you don't have to follow all of the same limitations that you do with your dog or cat. I mean, otherwise, I mean, the point of a service animal is that it is allowed to go with the accompanying individual essentially anywhere. And because the animal has been put through a certain amount of instruction and training to ensure that that animal is going to be, safe, obedient, so on and so forth, that it largely is allowed to trump all of the other kind of concerns that you have. When, I mean, I would say I don't have a dog, but if I did, I can't just bring that dog to the grocery store with me. But I mean, when you have a service dog, I mean, you just walk into the store, and obviously the dog is there's indication that the dog is a service animal. I mean, you have to, make sure the dog is properly, indicating that, which from what I could tell from these, videos or clips online here on social media, that it was. So it's very confusing as to, what actually was, unpermissible in this situation. I'm struggling to find really much of anything. So, it seems like a situation where there was some kind of ulterior motive by the school system or hidden agenda. I mean, I don't know if there's something retaliatory or what's going on here exactly, but it didn't seem like this was. It didn't seem like this was just a coincidental situation. There was evidence, at least in my opinion, that there was more going on here, and that it could very well have been a targeted situation by the school district on this family and this student. So it's really heartbreaking to see, but I think there's more to dig in to find out, what really went on here, because it doesn't seem all of the the rights and privileges of this family and this student were really upheld in this situation.
So Nick, I will go back to my example of being allergic to dogs and being on a plane, right? And so an airplane is a very enclosed space. And so as somebody who's allergic to dogs, I've had problems on planes before because of my allergies if a service dog happens to be on the plane. Now, what I can say about what I know about the law based on my experiences as somebody with allergies and as somebody who works at a college and has had a service dog in my classes that I've taught before, is that if somebody has, say, like allergies to nuts, right? Then on an airplane, every time that I've been on an airplane where somebody has actually told the flight attendants or the airline in advance that they have a nut allergy and that they'll be on the plane, then I know for a fact that I have been on flights where there were no peanut served and people were asked not to eat anything that they brought on board that might have peanuts in it because of the nut allergies. And so I'm bringing this up because I was thinking to myself one time, well, what about me? I'm allergic to dogs. So if all of this is happening because of somebody's nut allergy, then what about me, somebody who has allergies to dogs? Like, what happens if I have some issue on the plane because of my allergies to dogs? Well, what I gather is this, Nick, that I have a right not to say, well, you know what, like, I'm going to announce I'm allergic to dogs, and so anyone with a service dog has to exit the plane. No, it's not like that. What happens is that I have the right to request to be moved to a seat farther away from the service dog, or move to a new flight where there won't be a service dog on it. And honestly, like, if that's what came down to protect the rights of somebody who has the right by law to have that service dog with them, and the dog is trained properly, I have no issue with the fact that I might have to move my seat or move to a different flight. So I will say, though, that here is my real issue, though, that I don't have allergies to the point that I have to carry an EpiPen around. But if I did, just because I wasn't sure if I would be on the plane with the service dog or in some situation where I was going to have an issue, I would want to be able to carry that EpiPen around with me and be able to administer it myself. Or if I were on the plane and I was told, you know what, like if the TSA for some reason decided, well, you know what, like, you can have that EpiPen on the plane, but you're not allowed to administer it yourself. It has to be stored with the flight attendants, and if you need it, they'll come and give it to you. Like, I would even be okay with that. But in no circumstances would I want that EpiPen taken away from me. And in addition to making this big deal about the service dog and discriminating against this family for something that they have evidence that the school district knew about in advance, in terms of the service dog being brought to the school bus in the school campus. The student here was refused the right to have his EpiPen with him on the bus, in the case that he had a life-threatening allergy or asthma attack. And so there were even proper medical papers saying that this EpiPen would be have to be carried with the student or be available to the student at all times to prevent a life-threatening reaction. So what are your thoughts about this now, Nick, that now that you know that, in addition to...
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been keeping up on the story, alongside, so it's I don't mean to chuckle here, but it's the controversy between these two situations within the same larger situation is, I mean, it's so ridiculous, it's almost comical. So when you think about it, okay, well, one side of it is the student is being inadmitted not admitted to the campus of the school because of the presence of the service dog. And obviously, if you think about that kind of situation in its own little vacuum, well, other students who are also at that school, if they have a severe allergy to any number of things, including potentially animals, that they potentially would want to have some kind of medical protocol with them in the event that not even with a service dog, but maybe someone who lives with several dogs, not a fellow student, and that student's going to have some of the pet dander or hair from their own home at school, and maybe that's enough to trigger another student. So is that student then not allowed to have an EpiPen either on his or her person, or with the teacher, or with the nursing office, or whoever the medical professional is at the school? So it's almost as if the school system is saying, well, you can't have the dog, but you also can't have the protocol to protect yourself against any allergy reactions to the dog or anything else. So, I mean, this is like the most unorganized situation ever, because they're almost telling you damned if you do, you damned if you don't. So, I mean, where do we draw the line between what is just kind of going through the proper protocol with the school, and what is just ridiculous because they can't even get it right. I feel they've created a situation where it's completely unwinnable, and they're essentially saying to all the students and all the parents, like, you can't do anything. Like, you can't do this, but you can't do what would help protect you from this. It's almost like, what's next? Are they going to say, well, you have to learn everything in school, but now you're not allowed to learn? I don't. Everything sounds so counterintuitive here. I don't know how to interpret this situation, or what the school district's MO is with how they conduct their business.
So, you know what, Nick? I know that allergies are no joke, but what type of chips suffer from allergies, Nick?
What type of what?
What type of chips suffer from allergies? Nachos.
Oh,
that's a good one, isn't it, Nick?
Yeah, a little comic relief there.
Yeah, but like I said though, that actually some nachos sound good right about now.
Yeah,
But what I can say is this, Nick, like, with everything that is going on in the world right now, with the COVID-19 pandemic still going on, why in the world would a school district even want to have a student that is on the bus or on their premises with allergies that sometimes, like, if it's just a minor reaction, could look like a viral infection, right? Like, why would the school even be okay with even allowing that to happen? Not to mention that, of course, if it got so bad that it ended up being life-threatening.
Wait, is that a question?
Yeah, what do you think?
Like if a student is having like a seasonal pollen allergy reaction where it's very sinus related and it can be misconstrued as, I don't know, COVID or the flu or something.
Right, exactly.
I think in situations like that right now, with what's going on in the larger public health situation, it's probably prudent for families to, keep their kids probably away from school, just into, unless you definitely know, through a test or whatever. So it kind of creates a tricky situation right now because of, the additional public health aspect.
So you know what, Nick, like I said, hey, this situation is no laughing matter, and allergies are no laughing matter. But guess what, Nick? I have a severe allergy to alcohol. Did you know that?
I was not aware.
Yeah, because whenever I drink it, I break out in handcuffs.
Oh.
See, you like that one, Nick, didn't
Yeah.
you? But you know what? You know what I really think, Nick, is that someone at the school district should be in handcuffs, because somebody did something wrong here for this to get to the point that it is, and somebody needs to be held accountable, because I did not mention the extent of this, but school district's investigation, but I did my research, Nick. So as of right now, and this is something that anyone who wants to find out can actually go to the OCR website and look up the pending cases currently under investigation at elementary, secondary, and post-secondary schools as of the most recent update to the database was July 30th of this year. But there are currently 2 pending cases that are under investigation in the West Windsor Plainsboro School District. And one of them is for disability under what is it? I'm very bad at abbreviations, Nick. I'm telling you, it says, oh, under the FAPE, free appropriate education, public education. And so they were found in violation of that, potentially under a pending case. And that one was opened as a open investigation case on 11/29 of 2018. Now, guess what? We're coming up on almost the 3-year mark of that open investigation date. And think about how long it took of problems going on before it even got to the point of being open for an investigation. So who knows how long this particular discrimination has been going on in the school district. And then I was telling you earlier about the retaliation, and the West Windsor Plainsboro School District was what they had another case opened against them for investigation as of March 15th of this year. So this is not something new with the school district. And if you go toward the same website and look for some of the OCR cases that have been resolved, there was one in, let's see, 2016, and one in 2011, and one in 2020. And this doesn't even account for all of the cases that the school district likely settle outside of court or outside of the law, like from having a lawsuit brought against them and settling to keep it quiet, right? I mean, what school district wouldn't do that because they don't want the negative publicity. And
right.
so,
and now you have a situation with a very wealthy school district. So clearly one that has the financial means to brush things off and push them aside, which I mean, I don't know for a fact, but
right. Exactly. So what are your thoughts about this now, Nick? Now that you've heard about these additional pieces of information that I told you about the school district's relationship with the OCR.
Probably more of the same. The school is going to use its financial power and wield that to delay things or get out of jail for free as much as possible, because unfortunately just different parties are able to do that with the financial means to do it. Which, I mean, the unfortunate part you think about is, I mean, whatever about the school district, but ultimately thinking about the impact that the students end up enduring, good, bad, or otherwise because of it. So you think about this situation, and I think at this point it's very reasonable to assume that the school system needs to be audited additionally for this current series of events that have happened in the recent weeks or recent months. But are they just going to be caught up in appropriations for forever? And then when that happens, who ends up suffering from that? Well, it's the students that are impacted. So, while all this stuff is trying to get figured out, the students are deprived of whatever, correct allowances that they're supposed to get. And it just lingers on. So when, pushing aside all the political agenda and nonsense, it's ultimately the students who end up suffering the most from, what's going to happen with these, deliberations, if you can even call them that.
So Nick, I have a question for you. What did the spokesperson for the allergy medicine company say during the fire?
Spokesperson.
This has not been a drill.
Oh,
hey, you see what I did there, Nick?
Yeah.
But yeah. You know what, Nick? You know what is really not a drill is that everyone should go out and follow the Demons of Due Process on Instagram and hear about this student and the clear violations by the Windsor Plainsboro Regional School District. Because this really isn't a drill, because this could happen to you or your child or somebody that you know one day, and when it's your rights being violated, it's not so funny anymore. So like nothing will ever get done unless we all take a stand together, and we all take a stand for ensuring that everyone's rights are protected, and the schools are doing everything that they are supposed to do to educate all children, because children are the future. Isn't that what the saying always is, Nick, is that children are the future? And if this is how the children are being treated, then what is our future going to look like? I don't have much hope if these are the types of clowns at the Windsor Plainsboro Regional School District that are running school districts around the country. These clowns should be ousted immediately.
Well, I think it's a very sobering reminder that school districts are businesses like any other. And I understand to some extent they need to be, because there are people who are employed by those districts that are trying to make their own livelihood. But at day's end, we can't forget or allow our minds to deviate from the fact that school systems or education systems of any type are intended to offer the best possible learning experiences to what is their core asset, which is the students. And when that's not being provided, then there has to be intervention of whatever sort is necessary for that situation based on what the circumstance is. So this is a situation that I feel the students' best interests are not being put at the forefront, and the school system in this case doesn't seem to have that as a top priority or much of one at all. So this kind of cause to have this hopefully righted is very warranted, and it's not something that you or I or anybody wants to have to do, because it means that there's been a failure in the system. But nonetheless, when things go awry, it's important to ensure that as you said, our future, or the society's future is being provided with the right resources to allow that future to be bright and allow those individuals to have a bright future. And when they're being deprived of it, it's counterintuitive to exactly what that statement is.
So you know what, Nick, like you're exactly right that this that this is a situation that no one wants to have to deal with. But like I've been saying all show, Nick, this is no joke. But do you know why the man with the peanut allergy died in prison?
He got nuts?
Well, close enough. He was sentenced to the nut house.
Oh, yeah.
So you know what? Like this is exactly what I'm trying to get at, Nick. That these superintendents in these school districts, they're not even in prison, and it's like a nut house out there. So it's like I've said all along, I am not a parent, and so I have always, I've always felt compelled to be an active participant in my community. And so I will tell you, Nick, that I did not want to run for the school board because I didn't really feel like it was necessarily my place to be making decisions for like schools where I don't even have children who are attending the school. And so I decided to get into government another way, and I'm on the city commission, the cultural commission for my city now. And so I'm happy that I'm able to do that. But now that I think about it, the more and more I think about it, like maybe the like the maybe the people who don't have kids, maybe some of them should be on these school boards.
Well, I think that's a really, critical point. I think it's one of those situations where, you don't want to have the same monotony across, any board of anything. It's good to have a diverse palette of individuals that represent, different backgrounds, different, I don't want to say interests, but have diversity and versatility within them. And I mean, I think having someone like you, I mean, I'm not saying this so that you need to or should or would or could, but having people who are educators, whether they're parents or not, I think is a good presence on a school board, because that gives the perspective from the educational side. And I mean, you being an educator, and I've known you for long enough to know your approach and the kind of focus and attention that you place on the students, because I do feel that you recognize them as the greatest asset to the institution where you instruct. It's important to have people who have that perspective on a school board. Yes, the parents view is important, but they can only see it from one side. And I think it's important for there to be enough representation to have people from the educational side, because there's certain things that those individuals would know about what's best to provide the best learning experience for students, and that should be their focus. So I think it's good to have that variety on a school board, to have representation from the parent side and also from the educational side.
Well, you know what, Nick, I wasn't even thinking about it from that perspective either, as much as, like these parents of children, they're busy. They are busy. Like they're running their kids to practices, or like cooking and cleaning, and there's just so much that parents have to deal with in like keeping their kids safe. And then on top of that, you have to put up with idiots like those at the West Windsor Plainsboro Regional School District, who want to like tell a kid that he cannot have his EpiPen, that he can't have his service dog. And on top of that, now parents have to redirect their attention from like helping their kids from home with homework, making sure that they are walked home from the bus stop, whatever it might be, on top of working and keep making money to keep food on the table at home. So where are the parents going to get time to be on the school board? They're not. So maybe people like me really are the people who should step up and say, like, you know what, like I'm a community member. I can tell that you are, as parents in the community, cannot continue to do this without the support of the entire community, because the saying is, Nick, like it takes a village, right? So maybe it's time for the village to rise from the ashes and just get out there and stand up and be a part of the community. And like I was saying, Nick, what goes around comes around, and like the people you see on your way up are also the people that you see on your way down. So if you're like, don't say hi to everyone, if you're not friendly to everyone at all times, then guess what? Like you might make it to the top, and then as soon as it's your time to fall, no one's going to be looking out for you. And so they're just going to see you slide right on down until you hit the slammer. So you know what? Like that's my thought, is that like, people like me who want the kids to grow up and be decent human beings and be compassionate, toward other people and the diversity in the community, and toward people with special needs or who are different, or for whatever reason, like cognitive or behavioral differences, or maybe just something where they look a little bit different because of a birth defect. Like I have one where I have earlobes that aren't detached, and I know I was made fun of that, about that as a kid, but I know that it didn't have to happen that way. And so if I, as a community member, want better citizens living in my community, maybe I should stand up and be on the school board, and maybe all of the people listening should take action and do something, or else all of our communities are going down the drain.
Can't add too much to that.
Well, guess what, Nick? So I do have a big complaint, Nick.
About something else, or
yeah, did you know that allergy medicine just cost a lot, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, depending on what you need, it can be rather expensive.
Yeah, they cost an arm and a Allegra. That was a good one, wasn't it, Nick?
Yeah, I don't know if it's one of your best, but it wasn't bad.
Well, I will also say, Nick, that I just found out that I'm allergic to butts, Nick.
Allergic to what?
Yeah, butts, because it's a glute allergy.
Oh.
See, that's a good one, isn't it, Nick?
Oh, so every time you sing Sir Mix-a-Lot, you've been lying to me.
Well, I can't say that I have, or can't say that I.
Oh, John, I've been with you to karaoke enough times to know you have.
But what I can say, Nick, is that it is all lies from the Windsor Plainsboro Regional School District. It's all lies from them.
Well, I don't know if it's to say it's all lies. I mean, some of what they say is true. They don't seem to care that the not so pretty truth is there.
Well, you know what, Nick? I will say that before we get to your final joke of the week, Nick.
Well, I don't know if this is the right night for that, but
well, no, I think that people need to hear something, like to give them hope that they can still make it through the rest of the week, Nick.
Okay. I mean, I didn't really come that prepared with one, but
so what I will say, Nick, is that in addition to following the Demons of Due Process on Instagram, I would like to just take a moment to say that I would encourage you, like the listeners, everyone, if you're so compelled, to contact the school district and voice your concerns. And the contact information can be found on Instagram.
Well, I think first, John, I think it's let's encourage the listeners to read up on their own and get themselves educated on the situation. I think that's the first step here.
Yes, and that's my exact point. Like, just go to Instagram, read the story, educate yourself, and if you feel compelled, then take action further beyond that.
Yeah, I think that's the right course of action, the right sequence of events. Again, John, the school district, just so there's no confusion again for us.
Yeah. Oh, the school district.
Yeah. Just so people, just So there's no
Yes.
confusion about which
The West
particular,
Windsor Plainsboro Regional School District, and
and it's in the
they're
state of
on
New Jersey.
Instagram at WWP_schools.
Okay. And obviously the place where we've been kind of educating ourselves on the situation is the Demons of Due process.
Yes,
All continuous,
and
no punctuations.
Thank you, Katie, for putting that in the chat in the live stream today.
Yes,
Also,
thank you.
so thank you, Katie. And I will say, I want to say a couple of other things. Actually, just one more thing, because it's such there's so many things going on in the world right now, Nick, that we, like, the two of us could have talked about tonight.
Yeah.
And so as somebody who is in education, and I really am passionate about like equity and about equality and diversity and inclusion in education and in all aspects of life and in our communities. I will say that this was very, very important to me, but I don't want to like dismiss the other.
No, John, no, I don't think anybody's thinking that.
Of the week. And so one thing that and I'll show it like by holding up. So if you're listening to us on the audio recording later, you won't be able to see it, but I'll describe it here. So when we were in Chicago, Nick, a couple of weekends ago now, I bought this like these stones from Geology Rocks in Chicago. So we'll say that they're demantoid garnets, and the reason why I got them is that they're from Afghanistan.
Oh.
And so I've decided to like just keep them here in this little package until I find a different way to display them or store them, as just a reminder to me, and for me to remind my students of how lucky and fortunate they are to be able to be part of the educational system in the United States today. Because if you look at the collapse of what's happened in Afghanistan, especially so quickly, like even for the people who are left behind, like, it's going to be like really, really bad and very heartbreaking. But part of what is one of the biggest things that is important to me that has been taken away from so many of the Afghan people right now is the right to an education. So I just am so torn apart that the women and the girls in the Afghan educational system are at risk for not being able to complete their education. So I told my students that this week and last week, and I'm going to remind them every week from now on of how fortunate they are to be in the United States educational system. And so when I see what's going on in other countries in the educational system, things like what are happening in the school district that we've been talking about, the West Windsor Plainsboro Regional School District, should not be happening. This is the United States, and everyone keeps on reminding us that this is the United States. Like, even if people from here, outside countries, or whatever the source is, that we're reminded that we are the United States. And if that really is the sentiment, then the United States is better than this. We should not be in a place where children are scared, and they're crying for hours on end at night because of what happened to them, because of the neglect of districts like the West Windsor Plainsboro Regional School District. So I will say to anyone listening right now, just remember how good you have it being in the United States, because it's not this way in every country. So remember that, and just remember how lucky and fortunate you are.
Well, I think, John, just to add a little bit to that, I think remember too that as much as we want that to be the case, obviously this situation that we've been discussing tonight it's a kind of a ugly reminder that it's not, unfortunately, for granted, and that sometimes, we do have to get involved in different unique ways circumstantially to help ensure that. So, kind of just to use that as a little bit of a reminder to everyone's, motivations to help where they can with this situation.
Well, yeah, yes, and thank you, Nick. Yes, and I don't want my my words to be necessarily taken the wrong way like that, but you said my point exactly right, Nick. That the reason why I'm bringing this up, that we are fortunate to be in the United States, and that people are able to get an education in the United States, is that it has to be in a way that we all contribute to the process in some way. So you're absolutely right, Nick.
Okay.
So guess what, Nick? Before we get to your final joke of the week, I do want to say that I'm really excited about the big NFL football spectacular next week.
Yes. And just a preview to the listeners, we do have a special welcome back to the NFL season, a little bit lighter topic to change up for next week. So be sure to look forward to that. We have a very special guest who will be joining us to help us celebrate the return to something hopefully a little more lighthearted for everyone.
Well, I don't know if the NFL is so lighthearted, Nick.
No, well,
I mean, think about
more football fans.
Think about all of the people who were cut today, and their hopes and dreams were shattered.
Well, technically, John, that's tomorrow, because cut down day is tomorrow.
Well, you know what, Nick, that's okay. But all I can say is that, you know what, if you're out there and your hopes and dreams are going to be shattered tomorrow, then I just call me, and I'll send you a
you can send them some merchandise from the show.
Yeah, I'll send you something
like a mug or some stickers.
Yeah, I'll send you something nice. So,
or John, better yet, you could invite those people to be guests on a future episode.
Maybe that will help jumpstart your career, post NFL career in broadcasting or something.
There you go. Yeah.
So maybe that's a way we can help, Nick.
I hope so. I mean, you see a lot of former players in a lot of different sports get into broadcast and media. So why not have this avenue be one of those inroads to it?
Why not? Why not?
Why not?
All right, Nick, what is your final joke of the week?
Oh, you're really gonna put me on the spot for this?
Yeah, well, why not?
I don't know.
Unless you want another allergy joke from me.
Can we just end it on that? I'll save my joke for next week.
Well, no, I think that people want to know because
Yeah.
I'm kind of running out of allergy jokes, Nick.
Oh, come on. I thought you came better prepared than that.
Well, I mean, some of these aren't actually good allergy jokes. They're
None of them have been so far. They've all been bad jokes.
well, I mean, I was told that they would be good jokes.
Well, who told you that?
The this website.
Well, knowing how reliable. I'm not even gonna. I don't even need to say it. You know.
So, what is your final joke of the week?
Oh, come on, man.
I think that people deserve to hear it after all of this.
All right, John. Did you hear about the three random people walking on the railroad tracks?
I don't think that I have.
No. Okay. Well, one was a pessimist who saw only a dark tunnel. One was an optimist who saw the light at the end of the tunnel. And one was a realist who saw the oncoming train. And finally, there was the train conductor who just saw three idiots standing on the tracks.
Well, then, I think, Nick, that I should have just told another allergy joke.
Let's see. I tried to
But
lobby for that, but you didn't.
that's
want to
okay.
You didn't
Have
want
a
to
nice
allow it.
week, everyone. Enjoy
Yes,
your
thank
week.
you for
The struggle's
listening.
been real.
It's always.
To be alive,
Yep. Fake news.
believable.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Like
You've been
have my
listening to
great
Funniest
friend
Part of
over
My Name.
here.
Yeah.
www.johnoaks.com. Recordings
Have
from
a couple
past
more
episodes.
bottles of
Yeah, this is
soju.
And don't forget to join us
I
back
have
here
some
next
soju.
Monday for